It started with Los Five. Before that, there was Alanis Morissette. There was Eric Clapton. There was Wu-Tang Clan. There was Madonna. The list goes on, but I met him in a BMW in front of this Mexican restaurant in the city of Burbank, California called Don Cuco's. And he played me and our buddy Jojo a record from this band called Los Five. Think of One Direction, but Latin. And from that point on, my friendship, my true friendship and relationship with this guy truly blossomed. And you know, when you meet people in the industry, they come and go all the time. But for some reason, I'm still here and he's still here. And for the first time in the new studio, round of applause for Terry Anzaldo, TA.
Yeah.
I'm clap for myself.
Yes, you should.
I'm impressed by what you said about me. I mean, that impressed me, and no ego.
But it's all true though, and it's wild because there's this artist completely on this side, there's this artist completely on that side, and here you are. We talked about, you know, how you came from little TA to, you know, big TA and running things, but I kind of want to go over it again to kind of introduce you to everybody who's new. Who is TA? Where did you come from? And then we can go from there.
Well, if I start from the beginning, I mean, you know, we're going to outdo Trump and Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, right.
we'll do 3+ hours.
Right.
Man, I'm just a South Omaha Sicilian who came out to L.A. with big dreams back in the 80s during the amazing, that Olympic year in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And was just, you know, young people come to Los Angeles all the time with big dreams. And I certainly had them. I was raised in the music business. My father's a booking agent who back in the day when we were kids, back in the 70s, would bring artists to Omaha, the big pop artists back in the day. Okay. i.e. Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Barry Manilow, Diana Ross.
Wow. So all the biggest of the biggest.
He would book the orchestras for those big names, but he also was a promoter and would promote. He brought the greatest drummer of all time to Omaha probably 15 times in Buddy Rich, the legendary drummer Buddy Rich. He brought Count Basie to town. He brought Dizzy Gillespie to town, the Duke Ellington Orchestra.
Wow.
And I was raised around that. So it was in my blood when I moved to Los Angeles. Dad never wanted to move to the big city. I mean, but I had big aspirations, and our inspirations, my twin brother and I, were my oldest brother, who's a professional entertainer, was making money as a professional drummer at 12 years old.
Jeez.
And that my cousins and my older brother, Subby Jr., a.k.a. Sebastian Anzaldo, who nowadays is a Frank Sinatra impersonator, the world-renowned Frank Sinatra impersonator.
Yeah.
Came to Los Angeles. That band had bigger aspirations as well as a band. And growing up in the Midwest, I don't know if you know this, but let's just say October through February, it's very cold.
Yeah.
It snows. And F that, I'm not into that. I'm into Southern California blue skies and beautiful weather.
All year round.
And I'd love it. And I could have went to New York or L.A., but we all chose L.A. and you know, was raised in a way where it's all about get up in the morning, hard work, and, you know, things will happen. Your odds are better than don't get up in the morning, don't work hard. And I say that all the time. The beautiful thing about Los Angeles is it is 100% absolutely the land of opportunity. And so that's why so many people come here, but not everybody succeeds for the reasons that I just suggested. And it takes a lot of luck as well. So coming out here in 84, I, was doing the 9-to-5 job. I was a travel agent during the day. I'm a big sport fan. So at 16 years old, I started refereeing basketball back in Omaha, Nebraska. When I came out here after the 9-to-5 job, I'd go to the San Fernando Valley and referee 3 basketball games in the Parks and Recreation system. And then after that, I was a bartender at Osco's in Beverly Hills.
That's right. You were a bartender, yeah.
I learned early on when I came out here that really it's for, the aspiration was to be in the entertainment business in some way, shape, or form. You know, kind of like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree from my father. But what area exactly was that going to be in? But but my advice and my belief to anybody that comes out to the big city, you know, and in this case Los Angeles, is the focus needs to be first and foremost on becoming a resident. The math has to be simple. How much is going out? I got to have more coming in than what's going out. And if my car breaks down, I got to be back on the road, so I got to have enough money to fix my car and that type of stuff. So that was the mentality. So I was working 90 hours a week.
But that's very well respected, though, because your generation worked, I think, and I could be wrong, harder. Because what I noticed about Hollywood and LA today, especially in the entertainment industry, is a lot of these kids who come out are on their parents' dime. Their parents are paying for their apartment. The parents are paying for their partying. Their parents are paying for their rides. Yeah. And it's like, how do they even compare to people like you, people like me who...
I'll tell you how.
Worked our way to the top.
Well, and here's the thing. You credit me because of how I was raised by my father. But honestly, our generation was, I mean, can we cuss on this thing?
Sure.
I mean, our generation was fucked up. I mean, you know, my parents' generation did not, you know, they fought and whatnot, but the divorce rate was, they stuck together. They raised the family. And with all due respect to women's lib, which was a big term in the early 70s, which I support, of course, all day long. Yeah. But that's what changed dinner at home. That's what
good point.
You know, the woman was out more, and the traditional way. And by the way, I am not anti any of that. But the way I was raised was Dad went out and made the bacon and brought it home, and Mom cooked the bacon and took us shopping and my dad never bought clothes for himself or anything. He made sure that Mom had the credit cards. She didn't know what the finances were, but here, go take care of the 5 kids. And that's how it was. And that generation of parenting provided structure. And then my generation, because I'm, you know, I don't mind telling my age because I think I'm still looking young and handsome, about to be 63 years young. But our generation was a lot of kids born out of wedlock. Of course, that happens today, too. I was fairly spoon-fed back in Omaha, but there was a lot of structure. In other words, as long as I was in college, I had a car that was paid for. The gas was paid for.
That's fair.
You know, the second I quit college,
you're on your own, buddy.
He cut me off.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad cut me off, and I was on my own. And the first time a bill came, and I just looked the other way, he tore my head off. I mean... Not literally, but literally, okay? And I wanted their blessing. When I left Omaha, it really wasn't just about, I'm going to go out to L.A. and it's sunny and it's going to be a party and it's going to be a piece of cake and all that. I had the wherewithal to know that it was going to be tough. But I also wanted my parents' blessing. I know it was going to hurt them very much. They were going to miss their children. They were scared for their children. Are we ready for it at 22 years old? Or are we just a bunch of dumb kids and... Now they got to figure it out on their own. Excuse me. Yes, I was intelligent, but a dumb kid because the first 6 months I was fucking around. I wasn't. I
think everybody does. If you come to LA, there's enough distraction to get you out of your show at least a little while until you shape yourself up and realize, okay, I got to stop or I got to slow down, or you just you get sucked into it and it gets.
But I wanted their blessing, so that always.
Yeah.
You know,
you wanted to do it the right way.
And I could sense from them that they weren't happy with my first several months out here. And then the switch went off. And then I got a job as a travel agent down at USC Travel. It's called University Travel across the street from campus. And during the Olympics, I would brown bag across the street to the Coliseum. And I'm like, where am I? Yeah. And I was living at my brother's house with his wife, and then they got pregnant, and they gave me a chance to kind of get my feet underneath me, and I finally did, and I moved into a really nasty place in Highland Park with a buddy of mine who moved out here, and that lasted about 3 months, and then I met this person who was like, she was a cross between Bette Midler meets Liza Minnelli.
Okay.
An amazing singer, but had this charisma, this comedic charisma on stage, as well as a singer. And she would go out and see my brother's band at Sardo's in Burbank all the time. And she was living under the A-frame underneath the Hollywood sign.
Wow.
And she said I could move in. And so I moved in there, and now I'm living under the A-frame underneath the Hollywood sign. And on Saturday mornings, this is before they had monitors set up downtown.
Right.
And the speaker system that said, "Get off that mountain right now." And I would hike up that crest that goes all the way up to the sign, and there's graffiti all over it.
Yeah.
And when you're down in Beechwood Canyon, you look up and you don't see the graffiti. But when you're right up on top of those aluminum, gigantic letters, and for the sake of the podcast in your production, wherever, I'll send you a screenshot of a picture of me.
That'd be awesome.
Inside the O.
Gosh.
From the Big
That's
O,
cool.
a.k.a. Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm wearing a cut-off British flag shirt, which was very big in 1984, 85.
Very, very punk rock of you.
And the shorts were shorts to the shorts to the
Right.
shorts to the shorts. If those of you that are NBA basketball fans, if you
Yep.
remember John Stockton, they were higher than the John Stockton shorts. And I had a bandana around my head. But I would sit up there on Saturday mornings. I'd hike up there, and I'd sit up there, and I'd look over Hollywood. And many people in my life would be shocked when I say, and I'd smoke a joint, and I'd look across Hollywood, and I'd say, how am I here? It's one thing to make it all the way to Los Angeles, and I came out here, but I'm sitting underneath the Hollywood sign.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to succeed, and I started managing my brother's band. And the woman I was living with at the time, I mean, we weren't, it wasn't a romantic relationship. I started managing her, and she inspired me so much. She talked about somebody else in her life before me that was a similar situation, lived in this house, and she saw something in him, and he went on to be a big agent at William Morris and all that. And she said, "Terry, you're going to have a big career." And I'd think, there's so much living and so much hard work to get to where she sees me going, but it was inspiring.
Yeah.
And I just went balls to the wall. But what happened was, my twin brother was supposed to follow me out here, but my father was promoting an Al Jarreau concert in Omaha. So he says, "I'll meet you out in L.A. in 3 weeks." So he comes out 3-4 weeks later, and he's got an air check on cassette. Freddie, you know what an air check is. You've made many.
I got a lot of them.
He makes a pit stop in Las Vegas. Because I remember when we decided we were finally going to follow our big brother and our cousins out here, at the time he had 2 jobs in radio. And he said, because if he's coming to Los Angeles, he's applying at Kiss FM, period. And he says to me, "Is it crazy of me to quit these 2 jobs and to think I can go out to Los Angeles and get a job at Kiss FM?" And of course, honestly, we said to each other, yes. Absolutely. But we got to go, man.
Yeah.
So he made a pit stop in Las Vegas, and they hired him on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Full circle, it took him over 20 years to make it to Los Angeles. And he got into programming. So all of the record reps, promotion people at all the major record companies based in New York, based in Los Angeles, well, he's in Vegas, where all the heads of promotions, the senior VPs of promotion, they like to go to Las Vegas and schmooze the program director at the station in Las Vegas. So he would call me up and tell me about all these legendary promotion people from these legendary labels. And one in particular was Randy Austin, the son of Mo Austin, who was the head of Warner Brothers Records. When he started explaining to me, how his day-to-day works, the light bulb went off in my head. I want to do promotion. I want to work for a record company. And at that time, my brother's band, who I was managing, we were trying to get a record deal. I was the manager, he was the lead singer, but together we would get the fan base on our mailing list. And I literally had to hand write hundreds of people on the mailing list. We had a rubber stamp with the logo on it, with our address on it. But in those days, we had to lick the glue stamps and stamp them. We went to Kinko's and made artwork flyers, and we had to fold them 3 ways and staple them and stick them in the mail. It was a lot. We put up posters, We put up posters over the Red Hot Chili Peppers, over Guns N' Roses, over Poison, over Motley Crue, up and down the Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
Before all those groups were on the verge of breaking.
Yeah.
Please come to our show at the FM station, Gazzari's. And you had to draw somewhere around 100 people to be asked back.
Okay.
That's
they
considered the following.
That was considered the following on your mailing list. But to offset and to stay tight as a band, because they'd play their originals at these Los Angeles live venues, we would do the top 40 gigs in Orange County and Ventura County. And those were good paying gigs. A lot of managers are on the job. It's on the job training.
Yeah.
A lot of managers are friends or brothers of the band. It's like, holy shit, we just got a record deal. Who's our manager? Okay, you do it. You've been with us. You've been in the garage with us every step of the way, and so on and so forth. So it was an aspiration of mine. I wasn't a musician. I'm pretty damn good in the shower, vocally, but on stage,
there was a point where you had to pivot between going to Colorado or staying in LA at some point, right? And that's the part, yeah.
Excellent. So for a couple of years, we're getting to the point where one of the people, my twin brother introduced me to all the local promotion managers in the Los Angeles market. And one of them was Randy Austin, Mo Austin's son. Rest in peace, Randy. He was working at Reprise, and then he found himself working at RCA Records. And I would go to his house maybe twice a week. He would let me come over. And I would, I was like his runner. I'd get him pot. I'd make football bets for him. I would, he would let me listen to music. I'll never forget the day that he brought home the advanced copy of OU 812 with Sammy Hagar as the new vocalist of Van Halen. And this is 2 months before it came out. And we would just rock out, pardon my expression. I wouldn't use this expression in front of a lady. We would rock out with our new you-know-what out. Not literally. It's a figure of speech. I mean, we would literally fist pump to that record because his dad was Mo Austin running Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Randy's working at RCA. So I would call Tony up in Las Vegas and I'd say, hey, man, Kenny G's playing at the Universal Amphitheater. Nothing against Kenny G, but I couldn't care less about going to that show. I just wanted John Klein.
Poor Kenny G.
Yeah, well, poor G.
What did he do?
Listen. There's no poor Kenny G. He's doing just fine.
He's doing fine.
true.
Yeah, he's doing
That's
fine.
true.
I know he is.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it wasn't so much about going to the show. It was about I wanted to go inside that label and I wanted to smell it and I wanted to see the posters and I wanted to feel the rock and roll going on in those record companies and the action that was going on between assistants going into promotions people's office and the sales departments and rock and roll coming out of everybody's office. And, it's certainly not selling shoes. And I'm like, this is me, man. And I was developing relationships with promotion people. And at this time, there was 25, 30 standalone record companies who had big staffs. And so I was developing relationships in hopes that one day I can get a job like that with the mindset that I'm surely going to have to start in the mailroom or as an assistant and very willing and able to do that.
Get your foot in the door.
So I got an interview for an assistant's position with Jim McKeon. Shout out Jim McKeon, who was the head of Active Rock. At that time, it was called AOR, Album Oriented Rock. And he ran the department for RCA Records. And I got an interview with him, and my energy was just like it is now. And he loved me. He said, you're awesome, dude. And I'm like, I'm going to take out your trash. I'm going to do whatever I got to do. Get you coffee.
Right.
Obviously provide your reports or whatever, the job warranted. I'm going to do that for you. Now, I'm 28 years old / young at the time, but old for an assistant's position at that time. And he said, dude, you're going to be a great promotion guy. You're overqualified for this job. And I looked him straight in the face. I said, bullshit, man. Let's go. Put me in, coach. Yeah. And he said, you're overqualified. Trust me. You're going to be a great promotion guy one day. Okay. So I keep working Randy Austin, and all these other people, and just befriending them and staying close, and any opportunity to spend time with them, go to a concert, go to the label to pick up the tickets and all that. A year later, Geffen Records is going to open up a subsidiary label called DGC Records, the David Geffen Company record label. One of their first signings was Nirvana. So they're restaffing. A couple of people from RCA bail and take a job at DGC. So now there's an opening in Los Angeles and Denver. I'm about 1 billion to 1 shot to land this LA job. I'm 100 to 1 shot to get Denver. I wouldn't want to go, but of course I'm going. If I'm fortunate enough to get the gig, I'm going. Get your butt down here right now. I'll put you in front of Vicky Lieben. So I go down there to meet Vicky Lieben and with Randy. So Butch and Vicky are running the meeting. And I'm scared to death, but I'm going to be me. And I'm dressed in all black and whatever. And I think I got my swag on. The interviews, I think it's going well, but I'm not sure. They keep leaving and going to the bathroom to do blow or to have a sidebar about me, but their excuses were, oh, did I tell you about that conversation we had with Power 106 earlier today, Butch? Hang on, Terry, we'll be right back. And they'd go to the bathroom and start talking about me, as I later learned. They go to the bathroom a 4th time during this meeting. They come out and they stand over me, and I'm sitting in a chair just like this. And Butch is a Southern boy from Alabama. No, from Marietta, Georgia, I believe he's from.
It's so funny. When you tell the story, I imagine the camera zooming in, wide angle, as this young kid, and these 2 suits are hovering over you, talking about you.
And you feel this little...
Yeah.
Yes. So they come out of the bathroom and they stand over me. And Vicky says to Butch, well, you want to tell him? And I'm like, tell me what? And Butch says, you got the job. I look up at him and I go, what job? And they start laughing their butts off.
Which one?
But exacto. Because I was like, I'm ready to go to Denver. There's no way in hell I'm getting LA. And hence I was talking about, I thought I had my swag on that day, right? Well, Butch says, you're staying right here in LA.
Wow.
Awesome.
You look like LA. You live in LA. You're established here in LA. We'd be crazy to move you to Denver.
Awesome.
And, being from Omaha, Denver's like the next closest major city.
Right.
So I thought that maybe they'd be thinking about that, and it's more of a starter territory. And they put me into the fire right away. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it was easy the first several months, but the first several records that we worked were like Peter Murphy from Bauhaus, Cut You Up. What a great record. But at some point, we started getting more rhythmic records. And I just started blowing these records out. And leading the pack in the LA market, I would get, 14 stations on a record that had 17 total stations on it, and that record would become a priority for the entire staff. And then we started having, some hits. We signed Stevie B. Stevie's got these huge hits on LMR Records, and they're in these, all his records are big in these major markets. But he's not getting number ones on the charts because he's not getting the Omahas of the world, the Des Moines of the world, all the Latin markets were playing his record.
Yeah.
And freestyle was big in those days as well.
Yep.
Well, he wanted to be with a machine, and LMR barely had a promotion staff. So LMR signed a deal with RCA Records. They also had Jaya, who had a big hit back then too, one-hit wonder. But Stevie made this album called Love and Emotions. And the first single was called Love and Emotions. And back in those days, you could take a record to top 10 on the chart, but that didn't necessarily mean it was a hit. So we took Love and Emotion to top 10, but it was a big fat stiff.
Oh, no.
Okay? So now we're getting ready for the second single. I remember walking into my office and there's a pile of CD pros, meaning promos, that I was to send out to all my radio stations within the next week. And the track was called Who's Loving You Tonight off this album. And I'm like, oh my God, this song is not a hit. But who am I? I'm just some low man on the totem pole, local guy. I'm not in A&R. I'm not in marketing. I'm not in New York. While at the same time, there was a cat at KGGI Riverside named Harley Davidson. Okay, Harley was the music director, afternoon personality. Strange cat, man. Shout out Harley. Did he pass or is he still?
I don't know.
Dare I say that while he's still alive? I mean, you know. But Harley
Haven't
was.
heard from him in a long
confirm
time.
and edit it out if that's the case.
Let's keep it in and have him, you know,
And have
reach
him
out to us
contact
and say, I'm still around. He was just.
He's on the show coming up next.
Right. For a top 40 program director, on-air personality to have the name Harley Davidson
Yeah.
and know rhythm music like he did, especially in the IE. Because in those days, KGGI was the most unique top 40 radio station on the panel.
Yeah.
Because they would play like slow jams during the day that would just test and call out with their P1 audience. Yeah. What does all that mean? Well, just with their core audience, with their biggest listener base. But of course, they would play currents as well. It was just a very unique station. Mm-hmm. And Harley calls me up and he says, you know, every week I'd have to call my stations, hey, how's Love and Emotions doing? It's doing all right. It's hanging in there. It wasn't Spring Love. It wasn't I Want to Be. Yeah. It wasn't those smashes when he was on an independent label. Yeah. So it's like, this is not a good look. Stevie B signs with a major record company, and his first record is a stiff. Mm. I mean, even though we got it on the radio, but it was smoke and mirrors. Yeah. But I'm playing Because I Love You, the Postman song. Here at KGGI. This is what Harley's telling me. And it went to number one phones almost instantly. And the thing in those days, they didn't even know the name of the song. They just had to hum it or sing it. Or,
exactly.
Or it's the new Stevie B song or whatever. Long story longer, like all of them will be on this episode of Radio Flyer, which I love Radio Flyer. I love you, Freddie. I love your creation of this whole concept. I'm #, your biggest fan. Oh, and that's why we're still friends today. As you mentioned before, people come and go.
Thank you, too.
I'm as big a fan of you as you are of me. And Michelle, I adore you too. And,
thank you.
You guys are have always been so nice to me. So needless to say, they pull the plug, put the brakes on.
Yeah.
Who's Loving You Tonight? And we press up promos of Because I Love You, the Postman song.
Yeah. We
put the record out. Not only does it go all the way to number one on a national level and worldwide, it froze at number one during the holiday break. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this is 1991, late 91, I'm thinking. Okay. I don't think it's late 90. I think it's late 91. All right, TA's got some clout. TA's got some juice. They promote me to National Director of Promotion, which ultimately led to when Billboard and R&R Magazine, Radio and Records, split the Top 40 format into rhythm crossover and Top 40 mainstream. They put me in charge of the rhythm stations.
Yep.
That's the fun stuff.
And then came the Sisters with Voices, SWV. Mm-hmm. SWV. And so I got to quarterback that project. And that was an unbelievable experience.
That's cool.
They were very tough to work with.
Were they?
Why were they tough to work with?
Well,
how young were they at the time anyway?
They were early 20s.
Okay.
22, 23 years old. And the manager was tough to work with, but they gave me love. Mm-hmm. The first single is called Right Here. Another Smoke and Mirrors record for the urban. They take it top 10. We can't get arrested at rhythm with the record. And New York is going nuts because it's a huge priority.
Yeah.
we're going to break this band. We're going to break this. Every conference call, Butch was tearing us all a new you know what. And we're going to break this group. But right here just didn't seem to grab traction. Back in those days, there were record stores. Yep. And there was in-store play in these record stores. Yep. You'd walk into a record store and you'd hear new music. Yeah. And those were sales department campaigns from labels. Right. It's like, look, we'll advertise with you. We need some in-store play so our records get heard from John Q. Public who comes in. What's that? Oh, I want to buy that. So my new local promotion guy was up in Seattle. And this hippie dude, long gray hair, his name was Dennis. And he came from sales. Okay. So he had a great relationship with, there was a Tower Records in Seattle, but even more underground, kind of like a Rockaway Records. Okay. You know, Rockaway's really well known on a worldwide basis in Silver Lake here in Los Angeles. It's still around. It's unbelievable. It's like the original Amoeba. Way before Amoeba, called Rockaway Records. Well, there was one similar to that up in Seattle. Okay. Called the Little Record Mart. Okay. Little Record Mart. And Shelly Hart, who worked at Cube Radio, KUBE, 93.3, I think. She's still up there working the adult format. She's amazing at Warm. Shout out Shelly Hart. She also worked at the Little Record Mart, and Dennis had a great relationship with the Little Record Mart. He goes and gets us in-store play at the Little Record Mart on SWV. And the record that kept popping out to Shelly was, I'm So Into You. And she put it on the air at Cube, and it exploded. And we spread it, and it went all the way to number one. As it's going to number one, I'm developing a relationship with this kid who had amazing ears, music director at WCKZ in Charlotte. His name is Eric Bradley. He later moved on to the Killer B, B96 in Chicago. He's still there. Wow. Shout out Eric Bradley. You are the man. No kiss ass. You are the man. And I adore you. He's one of the nicest guys in radio. He's one of the best hit makers of all time in radio. And I'm like, yo, thanks for helping us go to number one. He goes, dude, you got an even bigger record. Really? He goes, I just put Weak on the air. It's going to be bigger than I'm So Into You. Really? So back to like the Stevie B
Weak
story. He's like, number one phones. Yeah. I call New York. I'm like, Weak is blowing the F up. And see, there's something to be said, with all due respect to radio. There's an attitude that, hey, let's, when radio would like to A&R our records, well, it needs a better beat, or it's, the mix is down. I don't like the vocals and all. Hey, shut up, man. We make the records, you play the records, okay? Yeah. Well, but at the same time, TA, I'm not in the business of breaking your artists. I'm in the business of getting ratings. Yeah. Oh, really? How are you going to get ratings without our hit artists and our hit records? So the dynamics were always weird between radio and records. Shout out Bob Pittman, who when he started at iHeart, he was like, we are going to have a relationship with artists and record companies. Yeah. That we have to have that synergy. And with all due respect, Bob, there are people out there that will say what they will about Bob because, he's getting bonused and, making sure he gets his big fat bonus every year. No disrespect. Get yours.
He's the head of iHeart, by the way.
Okay. But $50,000 a year salary people are on the streets looking for jobs now, and radio is shrinking. Mm-hmm. And, I think he's a genius. He created...
What did you say again? Say it really loud.
$50,000 a year.
No, after that. Radio is what?
Shrinking.
Now, Michelle's popular statement is this. Michelle, go ahead and give it to Tia.
I just always say, no one listens to radio anymore.
Bullshit.
I keep trying to, and he has
bullshit.
And he has told me the ratings are up. And they were kind of explaining to me about the ratings.
Bullshit.
Ron was explaining, you were explaining, and now I'm starting to understand a little bit more. I think like when we listened to radio, how old were we? Right? Let's just
Everything you're going to say is true about the new generation. There's no doubt about that. Right. There's no doubt about it.
We just moved from our age listening to radio then to our age still
Yeah.
Right.
listening to radio now.
No, it's true.
It's nobody new listening to radio.
No,
I guess I'm meaning to say.
all of that is true, and it is in danger of the, evolution of new generations and Gen Z and all that shit. There's no doubt about that. However, I'm in representation. I'm in marketing. I market and represent artists. I consult artists. And when I take on projects, okay, and 20-year-old artists say to me, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm still a believer in radio's initiatives,
Okay.
like the iHeart Radio Music Festival, my group, Los 5.
Which we've been, by the way, together.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have.
But it was really difficult to get Los 5's records in rotation to get played. However, we were iHeart Radio's rising stars. It was a $25,000 or more money grab from Macy's. Okay. That
It was
iHeart
called the Macy's Rising Star.
And I would tell,
Oh.
from Bob Pittman to Tom Pullman to the programmers in between, I would say, look, go get your money grab. But here's the thing. You haven't broken artist yet on your Rising Star campaign. Let's break this group. I want your initiatives.
Yeah.
I want because iHeart is great at having events, from Jingle Balls in 12 different cities to the iHeart Radio Music Festival. And my guys were Latino.
Yeah.
3 from Mexico, 1 from Argentina, 1 from Brazil. They also had Fiesta Latina in Miami.
That was great. That
With
was
Enrique Santos.
Such an experience.
Okay.
You went?
So
I was there.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Miami.
So
yeah.
I met with Bob. They said, you can't meet with Bob. I'm like, why can't I meet with Bob? And they said, well, you're flying out to New York to get fitted for clothes from Macy's for your performance. I'm like, yeah. And let's figure out if there's 10 minutes in there that we can meet with Bob Pittman. And so they did that. So I think from an artist point of view, there are ways that you can still market. Now, we'll get back to listeners, to your point.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying you're wrong about that. The blanket statement that nobody listens to the radio anymore.
Yeah, it's too blanket.
There's a different way to say that.
Yeah, that's too blanket.
And
of a
have
statement.
you be correct. But from my point of view, it still does exist. You can't tell me that nobody is listening to the radio. Are people down? Is listenership down? Of course. Is Gen Z listening? Certainly nowhere near when you were that age, when I was that age, when I grew up listening to it. But iHeart had these kids' faces, gigantic, plastered all over Las Vegas. You can't pay for that kind of marketing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. And Bob, to his credit, and to my credit as a manager who's not afraid to meet with Bob Pittman, I worked at Maverick Records. We had Madonna. Madonna was the queen of MTV.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to tell him, Bob, when I was at Maverick and Madonna and MTV and this is what I'm doing now. Will you please meet my guys? They did a 10-minute performance in front of him. He stood up and gave him a standing ovation and bowed.
I love it.
And I said, I don't need a record company to break this artist. But if you get behind this artist, Bob, we can break him. And wouldn't that be great for iHeart to break an artist as the iHeart Radio rising star? Because they're not a rising star unless they break.
Right.
It don't matter. And God bless the young lady who was the rising star a year or two before, who ended up getting, could I even use this word, assassinated in a mall performance in Orlando or something like that?
We're talking about
No disrespect, because I forgot her name. And
Christina Grimmie.
yeah, really talented girl and just a stalker. Just showed up at some
awful
mall performance or
she was
something like
super
that.
young. Just got started.
She got shot on stage and murdered on stage. It was so. Let me get to the point that I want to make, and I think this is a very profound statement.
Okay.
Here's the punchline. Okay, Mr. Artist, you're in the star business, right? Because I'm in the star business. I want to work with stars. I'm not trying to work with coffee house artists.
Yep.
With nothing wrong with that, but I'm trying to work in arenas and score. No, I'm not using you. We're in this together. And aren't you? Don't you want to be a star? Don't name me one star. I mean star. Zoom in. That's not on the radio. So that's kind of profound, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there something to be said about that?
Yeah, sure.
The stars are still on the radio. The stars still support radio.
The stars still
Yeah.
sing about the radio.
Ain't that the truth?
To this very day, the songs about my songs play it on the radio, or I heard this on
100%.
the radio.
As much as I'm still an advocate, and of course, when I hear that, it's like, but I'm still an advocate. When I hear that, I think like you. And let me back up a little bit. Yes, because yes, radio is same thing is happening with the labels. The labels are, I mean, they've been cheating for the last 10 years because all they are data people now.
You said you were doing all this work about, publishing and putting the promos out and taking artists to different radio stations. But what are they doing now with Spotify? I mean, are they just, sending an email with numbers to people? Is that what do they do?
And that's what I'm getting at, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in A&R positions who would like to use their gut, and A&R still does make records with the major artists, right? That with the major artists that are already on that roster. It's the new acts that there's no gut whatsoever. It's about the data, and that sucks. That's just so lame. Where's the gut? Now, granted, they're spending millions of dollars to market an artist in the pop space.
Right.
It's millions of dollars. And, the World Series is happening right now, so a baseball reference. If you bat 300, if you fail 7 times, you go 3 for 10, you're still a Hall of Famer. Yeah. In the record business, back in the day of signing artists, putting records out, labels would go 1 for 10, 1 for 15, 1 for 20. Those 9 failures, those 14 failures, those 19 failures were offset by that massive one hit.
Yeah.
Okay? And so it's not, let's throw everything against the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
But I want to comment about the frustration and the shrinkage of radio and records. But with respect to that, I want to talk about the evolution of radio and records, because the evolution of radio is internet radio, satellite radio, podcasting.
Right.
And, one day we didn't have a radio.
Yeah.
One day it was just a box. Then it ended up in our cars. Today they're on our phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just evolution. And, I have a lot of friends in the promotion world that, first of all, labels were Pac-Man. They were gobbling each up. Consolidation.
Right.
It happened with iHeart. It's happened with Odyssey. It's happened with Cumulus, with the big boys in radio. So consequently, you don't have independents anymore. And independents were where local radio came from.
Yeah.
I fucking adore Elvis Duran.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite broadcasters ever. I knew him when he was 250 pounds. He's an amazing broadcaster. He owns New York. Good for him that he's on 100 markets at Top 40 radio. It doesn't sound right in Omaha, Nebraska. It's not local. And local is one of the main heartbeats of
Same
radio.
thing that Ron said.
We asked Ron Shapiro the same thing, and he said local. Local. Yeah, it's so true.
And why would people, especially nowadays when we started off with Pandora and the DSPs, no commercials and playlisting. Why would anybody want to tune into the radio? To your point, the reason why nobody's listening or less listenership is who wants to listen to a commercial?
Yeah.
Who wants to listen to non-local?
Yeah.
Okay. Why were they tuning in to begin with? Because you could listen to the album, back in the day. It was the personalities that they were tuning into. It was about the personalities.
Right.
I think radio has done a terrible job of grooming new talent.
We talked about that also.
Are they
Him and I
hold on?
talked
Are
about
they
that.
even groomed? Like I feel
No.
like it's their first
well,
job out of high school.
well,
We talked
Here
about
you
the
go.
whole influencer.
I knew that
slash
was the next word coming out of your mouth, and I was going to
appearance,
comment on that.
How many followers you have, how important you are to your own fans, your own fan base.
So
And they're hiring the lookers and not necessarily the talkers, right?
No, yeah.
So the D'Amello sisters, Addison Rae, Travis Barker's son.
Yep.
That does not make them recording artists. Good for them that the evolution of social media and TikTok and now Instagram Reels and all that and somehow, some way, when babies are born in the past several years, and you could put an iPhone in their hand and they can figure it out.
Yes.
I mean, how the fuck does that work?
It really does,
I don't know.
It's weird.
Right. But that generation has got a certain vibe about virality with TikTok and Reels as well. And of course, the labels all try to copy it. And I know we got this new artist, or even in the case of, pardon the mention, Katy Perry, who can't get arrested right now. I mean, she's 0 for 3 on the new record, and she quit Idol because I'm going to go tour the world and put my new record out and all that. And I know deep down, and I adore you, Katy. Love you. Talented. The hits. But the pop space is very unforgiving, man. When you had hits 12 years ago, and 12 years go by like that.
Yeah, they do.
And at 40 years old, it's Justin Timberlake. The record was the bomb. I don't mean it. It was the bomb, and it was a bomb.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, he does good business live, but not to the hysteria of I'm Bringing Sexy Back and the follow-ups. It's been many years.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's been his career has been many years, going all the way back to NSYNC when he was, a little shit, just like Nick Carter was, with Backstreet Boys. But Johnny Wright, his manager, and Justin, the reason why it's been how long since the last record? 5-6 years, the tour. Because I honestly, I don't know this. I work with Johnny. He's awesome. He hires me on some of his baby bands, and I'm blessed. And he still sort of believes in radio a little bit. Is that I think Justin was scared to put something out to have it fail. And he knows that the marketplace is very sensitive to aging artists. And I don't mean Madonna aging artists. And, I worked for Madonna. I love Madonna. She's the legendary Madonna. Nobody wants to see the fucking grills. Nobody wants to see whatever the hell you had going on.
I just brought this
Nobody
up before
wants to
you came.
Girl, you're like, you're always ahead of your time.
Age gracefully.
Please,
Why are
please,
you doing so many
please.
surgeries where you
What
look
is
like
that
an
ass?
alien?
What's that ass?
Well, because Michelle wanted to ask you, because you worked with Madonna
Yeah.
closely.
Very closely.
And she's been beautiful my whole life. For forever,
Yeah.
I listened to every single song growing up. We both did, all of us, all three of us, I'm sure. And to see, even not everyone can do it, but even as an older artist, her music was still good.
Yeah,
She still had
yeah.
really good hits
Yeah.
into older age.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike some people, she really did transition.
Well, she's the legendary Madonna.
But she's trying to embrace this whole plastic surgery craziness.
the grills.
That's insane
And
to
her
me.
ass. I'm not afraid to say it. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What is that ass?
But all the
what is
implants
that?
in her face also.
Right. Now,
She looks like not even a human being, like
Now,
some kind of doll
Yeah.
or some other weird.
don't let me say something that I don't know any better, but hello. And then she had a infection scare and whatever. Was it from the injections? Was it?
Yeah, who knows?
Did that cause that and whatever? And God bless that she survived it. A lot of people thought it was a publicity stunt. It was
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah, it was maybe a
she
botched
She was
something.
legitimately ill. It was a scary, scary, scary time. And thank God she survived. And I think she kind of rebounded from that and kind of brought it back down a little bit and got rid of the grills and went on and had a very successful tour. And
that tour was very successful, wasn't it?
I still would see her. I still would go see her.
because it was all the hits.
My only problem with the tour was, can I have a live band? Let me not slam the table. Can I have a live band?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I get it. You're Madonna, the naked guys, the dancers, the whole bit, the grinding, all that. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
You're Madonna.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. I want a band. I want to see you with a band.
Okay, hold on. But going back to your career, what was Madonna like in person when the cameras weren't rolling?
So Freddie DeMann, who's Madonna's manager / partner, is looking for a head of promotion at this new label called Maverick Records. Michael Jackson with MJJ Records failed. Prince with, I think it was NPG, as in New Power Generation. I think it was NPG Records. I forget the name of it. I forget the name. Failed. Madonna with this new label called Maverick. I'll never forget calling my parents. I'm going after this job at Maverick Records with Madonna. My parents, God bless them, in Omaha, Nebraska, but my dad's in the business. He's like, why would you leave the oldest record company in the business that broke Elvis and Eddie Albert? Look it up. Eddie Albert was like a country artist from the 60s. Why would you want to leave RCA to go work at Maverick? I know it's Madonna, but it just had a vibe. It just had an energy that this label was going to go. And my father, his booking agency was very boutique, very independent. And that's, I was raised under that umbrella in the entertainment business in little old Omaha, Nebraska. But Maverick felt boutique to me. And it reminded me of my dad. And like my career was moving up a little bit, and we had just broken SWV and Wu-Tang Clan. And so I get the call, and I meet with Freddy DeMann, and he liked me a lot, and it was really good. And so he offers me the job, but I'm under contract at RCA Records. They wouldn't let me out of my contract. Wow. Well, RCA's having national meetings in New York. So I'm getting ready to go to New York. And I call Freddie up, and I say, hey, we have national meetings in New York. But I'm going to go see Steve Smith, rest in peace, maybe the greatest program director of all time, especially in the R&B hip-hop space. What he did for Hot 97 and Power 106, where their positioning statement became "Where hip hop lives." And that, I mean that
Yep.
What is your product? Where hip hop lives. There's
awesome.
no confusion there. So I says, Freddie, I'm going to go to New York for RCA's national meetings, and I'm going to meet with Steve Smith about my RCA records. How about if I take that Dana Dane record out there and play it for him too? Oh, TA, I love that idea. Again, they offer me the job. I can't get out of my contract. Meantime, he's looking for other people.
Right.
Sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Sleepless nights. And I'm ruffling feathers with New York. He says, when are you going to be in New York? And I said, yeah, such and such date, like next week. He goes, I want to set you up to meet with Madonna. I'm like, but I didn't believe it.
Right.
Like, that's not going to happen.
You're like, yeah, okay.
That's not happening. So I get out there, and we have national meetings. And when a staff in the record business gets together, it's not, tiddlywinks and meetings with PowerPoints and stuff like that. It is party central.
Yeah.
You meet during the
Tell
day.
me more.
I'm all Michelle, have you been to the record label Christmas parties?
No,
Let me just say,
so it's a lot
tell
of
me
fun.
more.
So get back to the room like at 2 or 3 in the morning, and there's, a voicemail blinking on the hotel phone. Again, this is 1994, 30 years ago. I can't even believe it. So I answer the voicemail. Terry, this is Monica from Freddie DeMann's office. Freddie wanted to let you know that you have a meeting with Madonna tomorrow at Central Park West at 12 p.m. Wow. It's 3 a.m. and I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
We're drinking, we're smoking, and
It's
and
like time to drink water.
and
Splash water
so
on my
it's like,
face.
holy shit. And I have a meeting with Steve Smith in the morning.
Oh, wow.
This is August of 94. And it's 110 and muggy in New York City. So I meet with Steve, and I play him the Dana Dane record, and I also tell him, dude, nobody knows this.
What?
Not even RCA. I just misspoke a second ago. Nobody at RCA even knew this. Steve, nobody knows this. And we were boys.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to Central Park West to meet with Madonna. Fuck Madonna. She's never done anything for radio, and she's huge, and she's never thanked radio for anything and all that, and good luck. I'm like, wow. Thanks for that pat of the back.
Yeah.
Thanks for that congratulations. And,
Yeah.
this is my leaving Phoenix radio to go program Hot 97 moment like you just experienced. That's this moment for me. And he says, good luck, pal. And so I go there. And I'm staring out the, Carice, rest in peace. She took her own life. She was Madonna's assistant at the time. Later became Madonna's manager. She answers the door. Her name's Carice. Caresse. Freddie used to call her Caressa. Her name's Carice. She answers the door and she says, hi. I says, hi. I'm Terry. And she goes, hi. I says, I'm here for my 12 o'clock appointment with Madonna. She goes, yeah, come on in. What did you say your last name is again? How do you pronounce it? I said, Terry Anzaldo. And she goes, oh, that's a strange name. I said, you bet, Carice. So she puts me into the living room.
Okay.
And the art and the books and the antique furniture. And it's messy, but cool messy.
Yeah.
And
Like
and
organized chaos.
Yeah.
Right. And the view of Central Park. So I'm staring out her window. There's big pillars in this room,
Okay.
that separate the room throughout the room. And I'm staring out the window, and I am sweating like a mofo because I'm nervous, and it's hotter than hell outside, and the humidity just sticks with you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wearing a white T-shirt with a black vest, and the right hand is just, it's soaked.
Yeah.
So I'm staring out the window at Central Park West, and I'm keeping
Wiping your hand
keeping
up.
my hand dry because we're gonna shake hands, right?
Yeah.
And minutes seem like hours, and she finally appears in a almost like Prince cryptic kind of way, and she says, "Hi," and I turn around, and she's separated by a pillar, about 15 feet behind me. So you see half
like
body,
that-
the other half is pillar.
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
That's funny.
So we sit down.
I could visualize.
I
it's
could
like a
totally
movie. Yeah.
visualize.
Well, it was
it.
almost like she just appeared from behind me. I could feel it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it,
Right.
but it was almost like she just
slowly moving into
exactly like a ghost, just like, hi. And I turn around and I see half of her.
Maybe she's shy.
So we sit down. She was very shy. We sit down. And that meeting was mostly Terry Anzaldo talking to the amazing artist that is Madonna, not the owner of Maverick Records. Okay? Because she complimented me early on. A couple of comments were, so I heard you broke SWV. And I said, well, we had a staff and I quarterbacked, but as a team, we did it. And thank you for that compliment. I mean, what a fun project and loaded with hits. She goes, oh, I love that record. And then she said to me, I really like your energy. So I'm like, all right, this is going good. So the nerves were gone.
Yeah. And
And before you know it, she was into Madonna, the artist. How you doing? She says, well, I'm making this record right now, and Warner Brothers is all over me, and they keep telling me, Madonna, you have to hurry up and get this record done before Michael fucking Jackson. That was a quote. And in those days, it was very competitive between the big three.
Yeah.
Madonna, Prince, Michael Jackson.
Who's going to release first?
All of that. And so she was under pressure, and Babyface was producing the record. LaFace was based out of Atlanta in those days. And in those days, we didn't have the internet. The internet was just starting. We certainly weren't able to send digital files through the computer. It was go to the studio, send the reel-to-reels in the mail from Atlanta to New York.
That's cool.
She says, Terry, Babyface's punctuation is not that great. He keeps telling me he's going to send me, and he doesn't. I mean, these are quotes.
Yeah.
And kind of giving you a little bit of gold right now, and maybe stuff that should remain close to the vest. Now she's horizontal. Don't go there. No, nothing happened on that level.
She's not horizontal.
It's almost like I'm the psych.
The level of comfort of Madonna now
She
with
just
you.
lets it out.
It just evolved, and I'm like feeling great about this.
But that's also part of your talent. It's part of your job is to make the artist feel comfortable around you because you're going to be working.
And the extension of your question, I mean, I ultimately went on to get the job, and there's more to it than that. But just to move on and really expound on your question, when she was pregnant with Lourdes, fast forward to, let's say, a year later, whenever she was in L.A., she was at the Maverick offices, which was a tiny little building on Beverly Boulevard, right down the street from Swingers. We all had dinner there a year and a half ago, and during that time, I walked down the street and reminisced and took pictures and posted on my social media. That building was flattened, and a lot of magic was made in that little building on 8000 Beverly Boulevard. A lot of magic. So when she came to, because in those days she was New York, Miami, L.A. And this was before Guy Ritchie, who was London, and then later on she, I don't know what's with these female icons, Britney as well. They all of a sudden they become British out of nowhere. They start speaking with that accent. But in those days she was Miami, New York, L.A. So whenever she was in L.A., she was in the office every day. And the interns and the assistants were, Madonna's in the building, Madonna's in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always going to be myself.
Yeah.
And I remember going back to the interview, telling myself, scared shitless, but excited, a good nervous, and psyching myself up. If I can't handle this meeting, like what's the point of the dream and the goals to excel in the music business and be more than just an assistant, more than just a local, more than just a national, more than just a senior VP, ultimately a manager, now working for myself rather than the man.
Yeah.
And so when she got pregnant, she'd come into the building, and we're Italian. She's Italian, I'm Italian, Madonna Ciccone. I used to rub that Bonza. that pregnant Bonza. Bonza is Sicilian for stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to rub it. And people would say, you can't do that. And I'm like, I'm just going to be myself around her.
Yeah.
And, I think she appreciated that. I think, she was awesome. Again, working at Maverick Records that she owned with Freddie DeMann, for the most part, she was an artist. Okay. Yes. I mean, when we signed The Prodigy, she asked Liam Howlett, who basically is the Prodigy, but Keith Flint was the fire starter, but they were hired stage performers and recording artists, but Liam was the Prodigy.
Yeah.
And so she requested Liam to produce her record. And he said, if that is a prerequisite of us signing with Maverick Records, I'm out.
Who said that?
Liam.
Okay.
No thanks. I mean, respect to you, Madonna, but I don't want my artistry to go down that path. But in saying that, during my time at Maverick, she was more of an artist, as far as me dealing with her, more of an artist than an executive.
Yeah.
An owner of the label. I mean, Freddie, as her manager, ran the label. And then as we started breaking Alanis Morissette and the Deftones and Prodigy, who Guy Oseary brought all these artists in, Guy became a part owner of the company, and our head of business and legal affairs also got a piece of the company. Now all of a sudden you got Madonna, Freddie, Guy, and our business and legal. So instead of these two making decisions, now these two and then ultimately Madonna and Guy decided that they were going to work together, and they removed Freddie. I was Team Freddie. Is in everybody's eyes. I got along great with Guy. I got along great with Madonna. But Freddie was my guy, and I was Freddie's guy. And when they decided they were going to move Freddie out, I went first.
Yeah.
So they put a bullet in me. And you're welcome for the biggest debut recording record of all time in Jagged Little Pill. You're welcome, Maverick.
Great album.
There's two directions I want to go. Michelle, I guess I'll let you help me out here. There's either, I want to kind of dig deep in Los Five on how talented they were, but I also want to talk about Wu-Tang Clan because Wu-Tang Clan, they're so legendary. And the fact that you have that moment at Madison Square Garden in New York, in the bathroom, for those who haven't seen the previous interview with TA, I guess we're going to do Wu-Tang Clan. Are you feeling Wu-Tang?
I'm feeling it.
So it's the Continental Arena in Jersey.
Oh, okay.
It's where the New York Nets used to play. I think it's where the Islanders played hockey. I don't think it exists anymore. Hot 97's big, I don't know if it was Summer Jam or it was one of their big concerts.
Like a big annual show or something.
Like radio stations will have, like a station like Hot 97 probably do 2 big shows a year.
Okay.
Wu-Tang Clan gets to headline this show. Okay? So they're freaking out in a good way. They're the shit. And it's their home turf, right? Now, radio shows, and it doesn't have to be a radio show, any concert, for the most part, they have curfews, okay?
Yep.
And a good time is normally around 11 o'clock, not necessarily midnight. I'm talking about arenas, okay?
And by the way, that's still the case today.
It's
Sure,
still-
it's
it's
usually
still
going to be
about
like
the
10 to
same
11,
about-
yeah.
Okay? And the expenditures going beyond that are, it's flushing money down the toilet.
Yeah.
If you're 1 minute past curfew, now you're paying union dues, you're paying time and a half.
Yeah.
The crew is massive to put on these types of events and whatnot. So it's a great night. There's 12 acts, all the big acts of the night, of the time in hip hop. Naughty by Nature and, all these big acts. And Wu-Tang is the headliner. So there's 9 members of the Wu-Tang Clan. Okay?
And by the way, can I just test Michelle out real quick? How many members of Wu-Tang Clan can you name?
I'm not going to be.
I can probably
Girl,
name
don't
about
even
4
feel
of them.
embarrassed, man. It took me forever to get them all down.
Because I, of course, everyone knows Method Man. Was it Raekwon?
Raekwon, the chef.
There was, of course, Redman.
No, Redman was not a member of Wu-Tang.
Oh, he wasn't.
Redman and Method Man
They
went on to
broke off.
duo
got it,
many
got it.
times. They made a movie. They're still working together.
Okay, I lost. Is that all we got? Anybody else?
The RZA is the genius behind it all.
Of course.
Fast forward to 29 years later, I last year worked with his baby mama, the mother of his daughter. They are a mother-daughter duo called O.N.E the Duo, based in
that's the
Nashville.
connection, yeah.
Amazing.
Really?
And I got introduced to them by no connection of mine with the Wu-Tang Clan. A dear friend of mine, Michael Steele, shout out O.N.E the Duo. So Hot 97, Wu-Tang Clan were in the bowels of Continental Airlines Arena. And now we're getting closer and closer and closer to their performance. One act after another is coming on and off and coming on and off. Old Dirty Bastard is one that neither one of you could have or
How do
should have.
how do you forget?
Goodness, yeah.
ODB is not there. Where's Dirty at? And they're all asking me, where's Dirty? Where's he at? As it turned out, Dirty was out in the parking lot trying to convince the cops and security, I'm who? Old Dirty Bastard.
They're like, who gives a shit?
They're not like, who gives a shit? They're like,
Who is that?
What's an old dirty bastard? You're old dirty bastard, and you're
Sir,
headlining this show.
Sir, please come over here.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
Security.
granted, usually in a group of 4, 6, 8, 12 cops, because you see athletes get pulled over all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to diss, but that square who's living under a rock is going to ticket this guy. And then his partner comes up and says, yo, that's...
You don't know who that is.
And by the way, that happened to Justin Timberlake when he got the DUI last year, right? Yeah, because the
And
cop,
it's fine.
and he was a young cop, and he didn't know who Justin Timberlake was.
Exactly. But that's also to tell you that when we get older, and that cop was probably young.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to showtime for Wu-Tang Clan. And now there's a posse of, they're 9 strong, but the posse might as well be 90. Okay. And there's Philly blunts going all over the place, and there's smoke. And you're like, where's You God? And where's Genius at? And where's the RZA? And the stage manager comes up to me and says, 10 minutes. And I'm like, holy shit. Okay, this is real. This is happening. And now I got to get into take care of business mode.
Yeah.
Because their tour manager is basically a member, the RZA's brother, and he's partaking as well and whatever. And I'm like, I better ramble these guys up. And so I'm trying to get their attention, and it's loud, and music is bumping, and the building is vibrating, and girls everywhere, and family members, and all this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stalls. Toilet stalls. The camera won't pick me up. RZA in this stall. Method in this stall. Ray in this stall. Don't you guys fucking move. My skinny ass Italian kid talking to these, talking shit to them. But they understood. I'm just trying to help
together,
them.
Yeah.
I put each of them in a stall.
Yeah.
Family can party. They're going to be fine. Fine. The toilet stalls with the doors on them. Don't you come out. Don't you come out. Don't you come out. I'm here to tell you right now. Any of you guys go missing, you're going to blow your moment, man. This is it.
Yeah, this is it.
Headlining Hot 97 in your city, man. New York City. Let's go. 36 chambers. And they got it. But what about Dirty? What about Dirty? Dirty was... ODB was like the second face.
Yeah.
There was the RZA,
The
but it
most
was really
distinct voice in the.
it was really
Yeah.
about Method Man and then Dirty. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Method Man will tell you, Inspect Your Deck is the best. Has the best flow of any rapper of all time. He'll take him over Biggie Smalls. He'll take him over Snoop, over anybody, and not the most popular Wu member, even with the core audience, and they're all asking about Dirty, and I'm like, let me see what I could do, and but I mean, listen, man, the curfew's 11 o'clock. You're going on at 11:38. That's a 22-minute set. I could promise you, at 11 o'clock, you won't be hot. This shit, they're gonna pull the cord, man. So we get up there at 7 till, you're gonna have a 7-minute set. You're going to play METHOD Man, and you're going to get halfway through Cream, and we're going to be done. And so it happened. But ODB didn't make it in.
Oh, he never made it in.
They were so happy to be on stage, and they were, let's do another one. They wanted to do one more song, like at 10:59 and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they barely got through they barely started the first verse, and it went dark. And it was a fun story. I mean, I'll share one more with you about the Wu-Tang Clan real quick. East Coast, West Coast thing was going on. Bring them out to Los Angeles to visit radio. 92.3 The Beat is pounding the crap out of Cream, which is my ringtone today, by the way.
Ah, that's awesome.
So I bring them into The Beat. And as you know, maybe your viewers do or don't know, the artists go to radio stations and they cut IDs, a.k.a. liners, and they sound something like this. This is Ariana Grande, and you're listening to my friend JoJo on 102.7 Kiss FM.
Yep.
Method Man is rolling a Philly blunt. There is a music stand that musicians have their music charts on when they play their music, with liner notes, IDs, the copy to read those 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 different IDs for 92.3 The Beat. And I got maybe 6 of the guys in there. But, you can't do 6 guys at once. So Method Man is driving the IDs, so to speak. And as he's rolling the Philly blunt, he's reading the ID. Yo, 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 what's up? This is Method Man. And you're listening to 92.3 The Beat. It's all, no, I'm not saying that shit. I'm not saying that shit. I'm not saying that shit. And the tagline at the end of the ID was, it's all good, which was coined by Snoop Dogg way back when. Now that phrase has mainstreamed itself out to, that was my mom's favorite phrase 7 years ago. 10 years ago.
Yep.
But it was hood. It was street back in 1994. And it was West Coast hood and West Coast street. And Method Man, I'm not saying that shit. Fast forward, you'll see Method Man on a TikTok with the, what's it called? The Drink Champs with Noriega.
Oh, right.
And they drink while they talk. And they asked, and I would never call you a sidekick, but Noriega's
co-host.
second mic. They're okay, Method Man. So I don't know, some shit like the world's coming to an end, or you get to make one final recording in your career. Who's the producer and who you collabing with? Who's your duet with? And the dude, the second mic says, is it safe to say we know who your producer is? It's the RZA, right? He said, no, it's not the RZA. Oh. Really? It's not the RZA. Who is it? Dre and Snoop.
What?
Really?
It came so full circle.
Thanks for playing along and keeping up with that story.
Wow.
And to this day, Method Man still gives me love. And again, back to that logo. When we first started back in 1993. That logo today, and it's interesting. You'll see 10-year-old kids, 8-year-old kids walking around with Nirvana, with the baby or the logo of their font. Mm-hmm. And I like to fuck with them once in a while and say, name me one Nirvana song. And they're like, almost like, who's Nirvana?
Yeah. Like,
well, you're wearing you're wearing their shirt. And believe me, I'm back in Omaha taking care of Mamma Mia. And as I'm out and about, I'm a basketball referee now too as well. And as I'm in gymnasiums every other night, I see kids wearing Wu-Tang logos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll take pictures and I'll take video and I'll send them to Method Man and say,
that's awesome.
How amazing to that authentic logo from way back when to how mainstream it is today, how awesome of a brand it is.
Do you know who made that logo?
RZA to the rest of the guys are just geniuses.
Who made that logo?
I have no idea. I'm sure RZA had something to do with creating it, and I'm going to ask Rifkin tomorrow.
It's a logo that hasn't changed one bit since it came out.
It hasn't.
It was a few years ago when Coachella, every year Coachella was happening here in Southern California. When they announced that the Wu-Tang Clan was going to headline Coachella, my goodness, man, it was like everybody from our generation, and it was such a big impact that their name was on the Coachella flyer, Wu-Tang Clan, to this very day.
You said it's okay to cuss on this?
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
There you go. There you go. I felt for a while, and I got to see how Hollywood works or how the music industry works. And here's one thing that you learn right away. Talent doesn't mean success. The person who sings mediocre could blossom and become the biggest star ever.
Because I love you. I love you, Stevie. I love you, Stevie. I love you to death, man.
I love Stevie.
I love you, but I mean, he thinks, being on key is, making sure that fits in the door.
That's true. But you know what? It's a lot of the background music and all that makes him.
When I met Los 5, when I got to see JP, JP was the lead singer of Los 5, and I saw him a cappella in...
Shout out Juan Pablo Casillas.
And he was in your garage. We were in a garage in Burbank, and JoJo, me, TA are sitting down right here inside of a garage, like we are now, basically. Mm-hmm. And asked Juan Pablo, we introduced, very nice kid. And he says, hey, I want you to sing a song or two for JoJo. And it was just like a click. And the guy turned into like a young Bono. I mean, it was he had the most talent I think I have ever experienced in my entire career that I was at Kiss FM. That's how great of a performer he was. It was very natural. You found him. I don't know how you found him, but out of all the artists and celebrities that I met, nobody had that glow or that radiant performance-ship that Juan Pablo had. I guess my question to you, TA, is it? I mean, it's heartbreaking to see how that didn't go anywhere. I mean, it got so close.
The one that got away.
The one that got away.
We've shared a lot of stories here. I'm certainly not trying to drink my own Kool-Aid, but I've had a successful career working for the man. Okay, we talk about Wu-Tang Clan, SWV, Madonna, and so many other artists. I mean, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Summertime.
That's awesome.
I mean, I had a blast breaking that single at radio. But I wanted to, as I advanced in the record business and got more in the managerial role, oftentimes we get asked to, okay, you got to look the other way now. We got another project. And I'd be like, well, what about these guys? They're going to get dropped or the record failed or what have you. And I just got inspired to want to be more hands-on with the artists and be in representation rather than working for the man, so to speak. Now, granted, when you're a manager, you actually work for the artist. Yeah. So you're still working for somebody. But with respect to Los 5, I felt I'm working for myself. We're partners, even though our agreement wasn't written that way. It was, old-fashioned manager to the artist, so I could be fired and was. That's when I believe they turned out to be, and I'll just say it, just young, dumb, and broke, And, 5 years of all being together, a couple of them got frustrated and just, when is this going to kick in? And they just kind of gave in, wanted to do their own thing and so on and so forth. But what I will tell you is that I like to believe that there's lots of people out there like me that are in representation, promotion, marketing, even A&R, who are behind the scenes. And people that excel in that field are very good at what they do, okay? And so I say all the time, very confidently to the artist, I like to think I'm very good at what I do. Am I the best? I'm not saying that. But if I believe in you, then there's nobody better than me. If I believe in you, okay? Because this guy who might be better than me but doesn't necessarily believe in you will not be a badass for you.
Right.
But because I believe in you, there's nobody better that can work with you. And we're kind of 6 1/2 dozen the other. The difference is I believe in you guys and I'll run through a brick wall for you. In saying that, let's say I'm a badass, but I'm only as much of a badass as you because I'm only as good as you because you're the one making the music. You're the one that has to go perform. And I can get your music, your artistry exposed to the best of my ability, good, bad, or indifferent. I do a great job at it, mediocre. I get you out there. I'm going to get you in front of an audience, big, small, large. But I can't make that audience like you. There's no smoke and mirrors. I used to say all the time, you can't fake the funk on the nasty dunk. Okay, it's just, if you just listen to that, you'll know what that means. If you try to figure it out, good luck. But it's like you can't fake the funk. These fans are so passionate. BTS's Army, going back to the Beatles and Elvis Presley and everybody in between, Oasis. Everybody's been waiting for the reunion and all that. Fans are unbelievable. And there's no, you can't fake it with them. So as much as you loved Juan Pablo, you think, and Matt and Ishmael and Hector and Tomas and our makeup. I mean, when you say, like, they were like, you know, the Latin One Direction, that was the idea. But we had a rapper and 3 musicians, and they were authentico from, you know, granted, One Direction, okay, they were all British. These guys were the United Nations of Latin America. 3 from Mexico, 1 from Argentina, 1 from Brazil. And they all came to the United States to better their lives. I mean, you can't get any more authentic than that. And we performed records in Spanish and in English. And we had success in the Spanish market and the English market. But at the end of the day, like you said, it was so close. I really believe, out of the stories that we shared tonight, I did the best work of my career with Los 5. Wow. But I didn't write the music. I didn't record the music. And as a manager, we were working on no budgets. So it was, we would do meetings with mid to high level producers that, you want to roll the dice with us. Okay? And many of them did, and we made great music. And, you know, I didn't know him 10 days, and I had a deal with Virgin Records and Ron Fair under the Capitol Records umbrella. And Ron has an amazing track record, from putting Fergie in the Black Eyed Peas to winning Grammys with Mary J. Blige. And he's just an amazing producer, songwriter, arranger. He's a great record man, a great friend. He signed the band instantly. But then he was let go at Virgin Records a year later. And the other thing about labels, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. We'd go into the studio and record half of a song, and then we wouldn't get back into the studio for 2 or 3 weeks. And then they'd bring us back in, and we'd try to finish that song and whatever. And so as a manager, I started making things happen on my own and recording certain songs and then bringing them in. And then the label fell in love with this one song, and they just said, the song was called Mexico. As it turned out, it was co-written by Andrew Watt. Nobody knew what an Andrew Watt was back then. Now he's winning Grammys with the Rolling Stones, Ozzy Osbourne, Miley Cyrus. Shout out Andrew Watt. He wrote a song called Mexico about he went to Mexico to get away from his heartbreak from a girlfriend. I thought that song was right up Juan Pablo's alley, from leaving Aguascalientes to coming to the States to have a better life. We rewrote the lyrics a little bit. His vocal performance was unfucking believable. When I played it for Ron Fair at Capitol Records, he lost his mind and said, "Oh my God, we have a record." So he played it for Rob Barnett, who was at Columbia Records when him and Simon Cowell signed One Direction and exploded One Direction. Fast forward, Ron's now at Capitol Records in Los Angeles. So I'm thinking, what a perfect formula. He broke One Direction. This is the Brown One Direction, formula, so to speak. And musicians and a rapper who looked like Harry Styles in Matt Ray.
Right.
Okay. But he had his own swagger, without a doubt. The girls just loved his ass. So they fired Ron. So I went to Rob Barnett and I said, boss, I think we got the One Direction here. And he had made fun of us over the last year. Lost Five, he would call us, and instead of Los 5, because geez, Ron, you signed this group, Lost 5. Well, I mean, what's happening with them and all that stuff? Yeah. And so now Ron's out. So I go and I say, I think we got the Brown One Direction, man. I think this group could be huge. Let's go. He goes, I don't think so. And I looked him in the face like I'm looking into your camera right now, and I said, I really, really appreciate your candor. How soon can I get the fuck off your label? And I said, we don't need to be here if you don't believe in us, if we're not going to be a priority.
Yeah.
And most people would be afraid to have that conversation. And I'm not saying I got big balls or anything like that. But the point is that, look, man, everybody wants a label deal. And then you get there and then they put you on the shelf. Mm-hmm. How's that working for you? You're losing sleep at night.
At
first, it's like,
move on.
we got a deal. And I warned these young guys at the time, that don't mean shit. That's the easy part. Now we got to make sure they make us a priority. We got to make the right record. We got to market properly. And hopefully we get a little luck on our side, because that's a huge part of breaking a group. And what makes the fans go nuts over that's what makes you beautiful. I mean, a great record like that with 5 great vocalists and X Factor and Simon Cowell and the Columbia Records machine and all that. But you know, like I said, Katy Perry had hit after hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. She's 0 for 3 in like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like she's had 3 singles and all 3 of them. I'm not picking on you, Katy. I mean, Ariana Grande's record came and went.
Yeah.
I mean, that one track is kind of a hit. It went to number 1. Sabrina's been at it forever.
She has.
And I'm not going to say that Taylor Swift broke her. Granted, she goes on stage with her in New Orleans the other night.
Yeah, I saw that.
And, you know, it's awesome. But she opened for Taylor last year. I'm not saying that's what broke her. That fucking album is just a monster.
Yeah.
From Feathers,
Yes.
which is probably, not to use the word the worst, but probably not even close to the best song on that record. That goes to number 1, and then Espresso.
I haven't heard an album in modern day where most of the album is good. I mean, I'm talking every song on that album is good.
Our number 1 singles.
Yeah, it's weird.
She was not nice to us at Jingle Ball.
Oh.
When we did when Los 5 did the outdoor stage. Okay, and you introduced us. And no sooner does Freddy Rivera, ladies and gentlemen, Los 5, no sound.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And the band's manager was running around with, you know, crew people going, what the fuck is going on? Me. And I wasn't very liked that day. But it's like, what's going on, man? Get the sound up and, you know, whatever. Meantime, backstage, you know, social media's kicking in big time. We're trying to take pictures with her and other people. She didn't want to know about us. And she was nowhere near any bigger than we were at the time.
Right.
Wow.
With that, so I've had a bad taste in my mouth about Sabrina Carpenter. And I have to say, even through this album that I've loved and adored, that I think is amazing, I still kind of like, She got me.
Yeah.
I'm in. You're awesome, Sabrina. Good on you.
Well, you've heard the album too, right? It's great. Isn't it?
I haven't listened to the whole thing, but most of the songs.
Well,
and
I
they're
mean,
really
you
good.
don't. I mean, if you know this, if you know, I guess nobody listens to the radio anymore. If you're listening to the radio, from Feathers to Espresso
I'm very familiar.
to Please, Please, Please.
It's TA.
Taste.
Has 2 homes, one in Omaha, one in LA, and somewhere he drove from the Venice area all the way to this tiny little city in Montclair to be a part of our show, to be a part of our podcast.
I woke up in Redondo Beach. I had a meeting in Malibu. From Malibu, I had a meeting with our dear, dear, dear mutual friend, Dave Chachi Dennis, who runs Benstown.
Shout out to Chachi.
Shout out
yeah.
Benstown. An amazing radio service. I mean, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into that organization based out of Germany and Los Angeles for voiceover work, for morning show.
I got to give a shout out to Chachi for the socks. I got the socks, the Benstown socks.
Oh,
I did not get the socks, so I'm taking back my shout out, even though he
never mind.
even though he bought me dinner earlier tonight. One of the greatest guys on the planet.
Before we wrap up, Michelle, any questions before we wrap up to TA about any artist or anything you want to know? He's here right now.
I don't have the answers.
Do you have a favorite artist that you worked with?
Wow.
Very hard question because probably most of them are your favorite.
I would say the Alanis experience was unbelievable. She's a twin. I'm a twin.
Oh, I didn't know she was a twin.
Either.
Earlier we talked about how, you know, Freddie wanted to hire me. That night after I met with Madonna, he called me up. He said, she loves you. I'm like, awesome. He's like, we want you. But I couldn't get out of my deal for like another month or so.
It's a twin thing.
Well, yeah. So I finally, one day on a Tuesday, early afternoon, it's like noon. And Tuesdays are big deals in record promotion and radio. Those are the days that's the day of the week that radio reports their new music being added to their playlists. And I'll never forget, by this time, I'm trying to get out of my contract. RCA knows I'm trying to get out of my contract, but they don't. They want to make an example of me that you have a contract, so we're not going to let you out. Meantime, Joe Galante, who was the president at the time, the Wall Street Journal was reporting that he was going back to Nashville to run country for RCA. So I even got on the phone with Joe, and he said, Terry, we can't let you go. I said, Joe, what about you? You're going to get out of your contract. He goes, who's telling you that? I said, the Wall Street Journal. Mm-hmm. And it happened. He went back to Nashville, and he's a legend. He's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, the CMAs, the whole bit. But as I'm trying to get out of my contract at RCA to go get this job at Maverick, meantime, since I can't get out of my deal, Freddie Demand's meeting with other candidates for this job. So now I feel like I'm in the middle of the ocean with no vest, no life raft, in between two islands and no place to swim to, because now RCA is like, we don't give a shit how great of work you've done for us the last 5 years. And Maverick's looking for somebody else because Terry Anzaldo is never going to get out of his deal. Many sleepless nights. I'm on my way to the restroom at RCA Records, and I walk by Bennett Kaufman, shout out Bennett Kaufman, his office. He's in A&R at the time. And Bruce Floor is in his office. Shout out Bruce Floor. He signed the Dave Matthews Band.
That's awesome.
Right as I was leaving Maverick.
Great band to see live. By the way.
And shout out to Dave, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well-deserved. Unbelievable. As I'm walking by that office just to go to the restroom, this song is playing out of Bennett's office, and Bruce is in his office, and they're listening to this song. And I pop into the office. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And they go, her name is Alanis Morissette. I said, Bennett, are you going to sign that? He says, you know who Guy O'Siri is? I says, no. He says, well, he's just a young kid that does A&R at Maverick Records. He signed Candlebox. So at the time, I had met Freddie, but I didn't know of Guy O'Siri. He was only 20 years old at the time. He said, he's going to sign it. The song was You Ought to Know. And it was more of a drum machine sound. Do-do-do, do-do-do. But you could hear the angst. You could hear her voice. 95% of Jagged Little Pill, the actual released album, was the demo that her and Glenn Ballard made. Wow. When she signed with Maverick, Guy was good friends with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And at the time, Dave Navarro was a new member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Flea was a great friend. So Flea plays bass on that song, and Navarro plays guitar, and they put a crunchier drum sound, snare sound on the record that was more drum machine sounding, instead of. Shout out Taylor Hawkins, rest in peace, who was the drummer of her touring band back then before Dave Grohl stole him away to be his drummer in his new band called the Foo Fighters. Rest in peace, my good friend Taylor Hawkins. So heartbreaking when we lost him. So I did 150 shows. She did 150 shows that first year. I covered 50 of them, 60 of them. When she played Omaha, Nebraska, my dad was the acting mayor of Omaha, Nebraska at the time, and presented her the key to the city.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So when you talk about my favorite and how cool that is, that moment that I got to, I never got to introduce my parents to Madonna in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. When she played the role of Eva Perón in Evita, she world premiered the film in, 6 different cities around the world. L.A., New York, and Rome. And my ex-wife and I always said, we're going to take my mom and dad to Italy, and we're Sicilian, so we were going to go to Carlentini, Sicily as well. Right around this time, I'm going through a divorce, and it was a really tough time for me. So I said, fuck it, I'm taking my mom and dad to Italy, just the 3 of us. During the holidays, December of 96. So I got to introduce my parents to Madonna in Rome at the premiere of Evita.
That's awesome.
So that was a great time.
That's unbelievable.
How was she with your parents, by the way? I'm trying to imagine.
Very nice, very quick.
Okay, yeah.
autographs, and Antonio Banderas was there as well. And she was very busy.
Yeah.
It was real quick. It was at the screening afterwards, and she split. They closed down Dior and Versace and Gucci.
I bet.
And all these stores right down below the Spanish Steps. And we were there to witness it. I mean, thousands of Italians and tourists were looking inside the windows as they locked the doors so she could.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I would say I have a personal relationship with Method Man. And, when I talk about the brand of that logo from 94, the blood, sweat, and tears we put into that, because we didn't get 150 radio stations on that record. We just got the major markets, the R&B and hip hop stations in New York, Boston, Philly, Los Angeles, Seattle, Houston. And they just transcended. They were pioneers.
Yeah.
And, keep in mind back then, Nothing But a G Thing was hard. That was really hard music coming out of the radio. Okay. And only a year later was Inspect Your Deck and Protect Your Neck, which was the A side of the first release. The B side was METHOD, man. And you knew this guy was a star.
Yep.
And then the big hit was Cream.
Yep.
Which today is my ringtone. You don't believe me? Where's your phone at? Where's your phone at?
I believe you.
Where's your phone
Let's
at?
see.
Ready?
Ready.
310. We got good service in here? Uh-oh.
One of the best songs ever, by the way.
Okay, so to answer your question,
If you don't know that song, you never lived.
I don't want to say that they're like your kids, because I'm not. It's not like that. But many of my colleagues have even bigger artists that I've ever worked with. I mean, Madonna's pretty huge. Wu-Tang Clan's pretty huge in their lane. Alanis is pretty huge in their lane. But my friends at Columbia Records, Republic Records, have worked with the biggest artists. And again, am I a dinosaur? All this happened in the 90s. You know what I mean? For me. And I tried to blow up Los 5, 5 to 10 years ago. And I really believed that we were going to. I really believed that they were going to be the biggest band in the world. But to answer your question, I would say I love me some Method Man.
That's awesome.
That's my favorite. And I want to wish you guys the best of luck with Radio Flyer. I love the name. I love you. I love you. I just, Freddie, you were, I've said this before and I'll say it again. During my days with Los 5, you were so good to us. You were really on the team. And I would call you at a moment's notice and say, we're at Universal City Walk tonight on the main stage. I'm not trying to treat you as second fiddle, but, JoJo can't make it. And, we use JoJo, but we use you. You introduced us at the world famous Whiskey A Go-Go that night. And you were just always there for us. You'd always capture great content for us on your social media. And then, things got a little corporate for you in radio. And I believe in not just musical artists. I'm in the talent business, not just in the music business. And you're a talented cat, and you got hit with some hard luck and some tough times. And also it was, I don't mean to say you were naive, but you just needed somebody to wrap your arm around you and teach you a little bit about the business and help you get a little bit thicker skin and not feel sorry for yourself and just pick yourself up and brush yourself off and let's keep going. And I've tried to stay in your corner as much as you stayed in my corner. And I love doing this. This is awesome. And, you guys are, it's taken you about 16 years. I mean,
That's how it feels.
Two
No,
years
really.
to get this studio up and running. And, to your point of your introduction earlier, we've done this before, but it was audio only. And I have to tell you, I was at a lunch today with Gary Morella, who's my dear friend, who's partners with the great Timbaland. And he's today he's talking to me and teaching me about Chat GPT, and he's like, TA, I use it 10 times a day. I said, I really like to write my own shit and have my personality in my writing. I'm not anti Chat GPT, not by any means. He goes, watch this. Tell me a little something about Terry Anzaldo. And all this shit comes up.
Yeah.
And I promise you, it came from our audio podcast.
Wow.
That's where it came from.
Wow.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Because you remember speaking about all of that.
Well, I mean, it's just every artist that we talked about tonight, we kind of, it's pretty similar to the original audio. And, I think what makes good podcasting is good storytelling.
Yes.
And good hosts where you guys just lob me little softballs. And again, I failed to really allow you guys to drive, which is your job to do on your podcast. It's radio/podcast speak as the host. They're driving the show. But I like to think that they just lob me softballs and let me tell my stories. So I don't know if I'm a good storyteller or not. We'll see how this episode takes off. But
there's a reason why you
guys didn't do a lot of interrupting.
Yeah.
I love sharing these stories. I think, the history of music and these types of behind the scenes and pulling back the curtain a little bit is fun for listeners. I don't take for granted these experiences in any way, shape, or form. I love sharing them. It might come across as arrogant. Maybe I am. Part of my personality and confidence, maybe it comes from being cocky. I try to be equally as humble as I am confident or cocky or arrogant. I just love sharing stories. Yeah. You're asking. You're interested. Hopefully your viewers/listeners are interested. I'm an advocate of the evolution of radio, new media that is podcasting. I remember when Adam Carolla left Loveline with Dr. Drew and the whole idea of podcasting with Norm Pattis and Westwood One. Shout out Norm and rest in peace. A real pioneer in radio and Westwood One and now podcasting. And Adam Carolla makes a living with his podcast now. Yep. So here's what I'll tell you, is that just because it's easy for artists to put their records up on DSPs now.
And by the way, what are DSPs?
Digital streaming platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
The S might be another word. I forget what other people say it is, and it might be that. But I like to say streaming because that really tells, it's Spotify, it's Apple, all that. And artists will complain about the royalty payments. 0.0003 or whatever. Okay. Are you making money from a record store? Do you have to pay to make the record? To make the CD, to make the cassette, to make the vinyl, to make the 8-track? That was all the components going back to the evolution of where we are now, which is all digital. So all you young people that are complaining, you can make a record in your backyard. You just have to, making records at the Sound Factory and all these recording studios, to make a single was $25,000. To make 25,000 CD pros to get out to the gatekeepers or to get in record stores. And there's only so much inventory.
Wasn't Cazelle talking about the cost of vinyl, of pressing the vinyl?
Come on, man. It's expensive. Yeah. Now, whatever it costs you for your equipment or to hire somebody to produce your record or whatever, as an independent, I'm not talking about Timbaland. You can't fucking afford Timbaland.
Yeah.
Okay? But you can get your record out. That don't entitle you to success, Mr. Complainer. Yeah. And all the classic rock artists that complain about, my record's streaming like crazy online and they send me a little bit. You signed that shit away to the labels back in the day for advances for $250,000 back in the 70s. That was a lot of money. Maybe it was $1 million. It went up your nose. It went to your mistress. You bought your mama house. You bought 14 Corvettes, and you were a drug addict. That's where that money went. Now it belongs to the master copyright holder.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the one positive thing, because I could say about John Ivey, is when we had a meeting, he would say, as if we had a chance to hang out with the guy, he would say, that Diddy guy, he's a weird fuck. Don't hang out with him. Don't go to his parties. And we're like, I'm like I'm never gonna get invited.
He knew.
That was a decade ago.
Well, that's when the shit was happening.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
That's when it all started. You know? And we'll see what happens. And I mean, the accusations of the record executives at the top, from Clive to Lushan Grange and Jay-Z and
all
Beyonce.
the names are coming out.
That. Yeah, but I mean, we don't know what we don't know, and social media and stories are being spread, and Jaguar Wright's out there talking shit.
I'll tell you what I do know. And what I do know is that I'm extremely thankful that I have met and became friends with one of the most passionate, fierce, talented guys with the big, it's always the guy that you feel like, man, it's so easy to I feel like we can get riled up, because we're so passionate. But TA has the biggest heart. And there's a reason why we're still friends to this day, and I'm grateful for our friendship, TA. I appreciate the fact that you came all the way through that traffic to Montclair to be here on the podcast, and we appreciate you.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, TA. Thank you, man.
Love you, man.
So, ladies and gentlemen, between us three, let's give it up for TA.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Radio Flyer. Let's give it up to Radio Flyer. Subscribe and listen. More great episodes to come. If you didn't like mine, give Freddie and Michelle another chance and come on back.
We'll take it.
We'll take it.